Hello, beautiful humans. Welcome to day 10 of the Power of Love Summit, transforming self and society through love and compassion. Thank you so much for being here today on this Wednesday. Yay. My name is Brittany Tackett. I am a transpersonal therapist and coach, a yoga and meditation teacher, and the founder of Heart First Education, whose mission is to educate the whole person, heart first. And our vision is a world where hearts are educated as much as minds. And so today I have our very last talk, our very last interview, so exciting, with Michelle Kirk. She is an intuitive soul aligned counselor and a Reiki master teacher. And we are going to talk today about a really important topic, which is shadow work and how by shining our light on our shadow, shedding light on the darkness, we can find more healing in our hearts. So such a beautiful topic. Thank you so much for being here today, Michelle. Please introduce yourself to us. Tell us more about you and the work that you're doing.
Thank you for having me. I'm very excited. So my name is Michelle Kirk, and as Brittany has already said, I am a soul aligned counselor, Reiki master, and basically I have been a clinical therapist for the past 23 years now, and I decided to branch out of the corporate world and start my own business, as I didn't feel like I was able to incorporate the mind, body, and soul into the corporate world, as far as, my essential oils, my holistic methods. And I just was not feeling aligned anymore. And so I started to really incorporate Reiki energy healing into everything that I do. And I guess I should back up just a little bit. I was off of medical leave for a year and a half, because I am an empath and I didn't know it at the time. And so my energy was being drained, and I was having physical issues because my energy was so drained. And that's when I realized I had to do something different. And that's when I started to get into the Reiki energy healing and started to learn as much as I could to incorporate that into how I practice. And I'm also intuitive and have been since I was a child, but I did not always embrace it. But then it just kept coming right back. So I had to really fully learn all about it and how to incorporate that into everything that I'm doing.
That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing. And I'm curious if you would like to speak a little bit more towards that, being an empath, and how that affected you physically. Like, were you taking on stuff from your clients?
I think I was taking on both from my clients and the political aspect, and the environment that I was in was very toxic. And I just kept getting these supervisors. Like, I had a lot of supervisor trauma, which was something I had to work through with my shadow work. So it was a combination of things, but yeah, it made me physically to the point where I had vertigo, and I have broke my neck in the past a long time ago. So that was being exasperated too. All of my symptoms that I had were just totally being exasperated from the absorbing of other people's energies. So that, I had to do a lot of my own shadow work, which I'll talk about and incorporate that when I talk about what that is. But it also, being an empath kind of goes hand in hand with the shadow work, because it really impacted the types of people that I was attracting into my life. And I really had to take a look at that. I don't know how, I don't want to go make this all about being an empath, but empaths tend to attract controlling, narcissistic people if they're not careful, if they're not protecting and cleansing their energy properly. And that's one of the things that I teach. I really try, my focus is really helping people that are empaths, healers, that are just starting out on their spiritual journey and they're not sure how to get started. They're not sure what direction they want to go in. And so I really help them try to manage what it means to be an empath, and then doing the shadow work, because that's something that really has to start at the beginning in order to keep moving forward.
Yes. I love that. And I'm so happy to connect with you and have you here, being that you have all this experience as a therapist and that you have taken more of a holistic route, including the energetics of things and, the Reiki and all that. And that's so important. I chose a similar path myself. I was very disenchanted just in school when I was studying clinical psychology, and I felt like all the focus was just on the behavior. I'm like, well, what about all the stuff underneath that, right? And what about the human spirit? And so that's what led me to transpersonal psychology, including the mind, body, spirit, and heart, because there's so much more to us as human beings than just this outer layer, I think, that the clinical field tends to focus on. So I love the work that you're doing. Love that you had the courage to kind of step out of that corporate world and start your own business and share your gifts. That's so beautiful, Michelle.
Thank you. Yeah, it was definitely a risky, like for me, I was always like staying in my comfort zone. But once I did that, I saw so many wonderful things happen because I finally took that leap of faith and got out of my comfort zone, which is really important because that's where that stagnant energy is if you just stay in your comfort zone all the time.
Absolutely. Yes, such good stuff. So we'll just get into it then with the shadow work. So
sure.
Can you tell our viewers a little bit about what the shadow is, kind of where that term came from, and how we can start to recognize the shadow in ourselves and start to do that work with it? Because I know a lot of times when it is in the shadow, we don't see it, right? It's something we avoid or repress. Maybe we're projecting it out. So just tell us a little bit about what that is. Maybe there are some viewers that have never heard of shadow work or are just getting into it.
Sure. So basically, the shadow is, like some people call it, the dark side or hidden parts of ourselves that we tend to repress, which you just said. But it's really a part of who we are. And at some point in our lives, it served a purpose as a survival mechanism. And so if we don't address these shadows, they're going to keep popping up in different areas of our lives. And so I'm going to give some examples of that in just a second. But where the term shadow came from was Carl Jung. I always said Jung, but it's not really how it's pronounced. So, who was a psychologist. And what he said is it's the unconscious parts of the personality that our conscious ego does not want to identify in itself. So it's really, the ego is part of this.
Mm-hmm.
So how does that show up for people? What does that look like? So in childhood, a lot of times what can happen is we are taught different things. We're taught limited beliefs, whether that be, with the different specific religions. We're taught to, some of us, not to question anything, not to, you do what you're told, and when I tell you to do it, type of thing. So there's different parts, there's trauma, there's trust issues, there's, so many different things that can happen as a child. And it doesn't necessarily just have to be in childhood. It can be throughout our lives in different types of relationships with people. Mm-hmm. And what will happen is we'll start to close off our hearts, whether that's intentionally or unintentionally, because we're afraid of being hurt again. We don't want to experience that pain again. So then therefore we start to close off our hearts. and not deal with some of those aspects, those trust issues, those patterns, those behaviors that we have developed. And it really can block you from a lot of things in your life, whether that is, a healthy relationship, that self-love, that job that you want, because we're afraid to open up our hearts. So once you start to work on that, you can open up your heart and really start to align with those things that you're truly wanting. And I'm just thinking, like, I'll give an example. Like, I have somebody that was taught, it was brought up Catholic, nothing against Catholic religion, but she wouldn't question things. And she would do what people told her, even if it was things that were really wrong, because that's how she was taught. And so it really caused her a lot of discomfort when she was trying to speak her truth. So she wasn't able to use her throat chakra. She wasn't able to speak up for herself in every aspect of her life. Like, she got into several marriages because her parents wanted her to marry this person. So that's like an example. Like, she felt like she couldn't speak up to her parents and say, no, I don't want to do this. And so really being able to develop your truth, step into your truth for you. And what does that mean? So, another example is people pleasing. And empaths, unfortunately, have the tendency to do that because they do have such big heart sensitivity to others. And so they have this tendency to really want to fix and help others all the time. So that is also something that shadow work can help you with, because you can have healthy boundaries, even if you're an empath. It is possible. And not feeling worthy, that's another big shadow that happens with people, whether they were, mentally abused, told that they weren't worthy, put down all the time. That is another thing that is really has held a lot of people back, because they don't feel like they're worthy on getting what they truly want and what their heart desires. So therefore, they stay in a job that they don't like because it's it pays the bills, instead of going into something that really are passionate about. So I think, religion, again, I'm not putting down religion, but I think that can really be a barrier for some people. I have had so many people that come to me and are scared to death of the spiritual world. And I was one of those people.
Yeah.
And so that is also become because of some limited beliefs and things that they were taught, and it caused a lot of fear-based thoughts surrounding that.
Yeah.
And so therefore they will be really scared to start this journey, even though they might be, having all these different spiritual things, intuitive things happening to them, but they are scared. They feel like they're going crazy. And that's exactly how it started for me. Is I've been intuitive since a child, but I didn't always embrace it. And once I started to take Reiki, it started to really open up for me. And being a social worker, and I worked with severely mentally ill. And so I was treating people that needed to be on psychiatric medications and that were having hallucinations and delusions. And so here I am, I was having things happen in my room. I was so afraid to tell anybody about it because I thought I was freaking nuts. I am not going to lie. I really thought I was going nuts. I couldn't talk to my social work friends, and so I would turn to was drinking a lot, and I would just turn inside myself, and I would isolate. And so instead of having to try and explain it to people, I really isolated. But then that's when I realized, and I sought out other like-minded individuals, that I wasn't alone in this. But it can be really scary because I was brought up, Christian, and, there's heaven and hell, and you can go to hell if you do this or you do that. And so it's really, or if you believe, like, I can't tell you how many times I've heard that the spiritual world is evil, the tarot oracle cards. I had somebody reach out to me yesterday asking about the portal, and that she was told that this is the, devil's going to come through the portal, and she was scared. And so I really think that those beliefs are still really prevalent in a lot of people. And that's what really can hold them back from moving forward because they're so scared.
Yeah, I've definitely seen that too. And, I was also kind of raised in that same paradigm, and I had to do a lot of deconstructing and unlearning and try to figure out what really resonates for me. But, from what I've seen with a lot of the religions out there, they tend to push more fear rather than love, when love is really the core of all religions. When you get down to it, like, what is God? What is source, oneness? It's love, right? We have this beautiful, unconditional love that's available to us, at any moment if we tap into it. But for some reason, like, the dominant religious paradigm has been pushing fear and separation and shame, and you're born with this sin and now you need to repent. And no wonder there's so many people with unworthiness, and so many people with fear, and not even feeling safe enough to trust their own experience. Like, oh, this can't be real if I'm seeing these things, because I've been told that I can only access God through this book, or all things that I don't understand are evil. So I totally resonate, understand with what you're saying, and how a lot of people are maybe still held back by that. Because I don't feel like the programming has been really fully positive. There is a lot of fear and shame there. And I am seeing, though, a lot of deconstructing happening. I'm seeing more and more people starting to say, hey, this doesn't really resonate for me in my heart. So I'm going to start, deconstructing and figure out what does. And that takes so much courage to go against, like, everything and what you've been taught and told, especially if it's by elders that you respect and trust.
Absolutely. It's very scary, because you're basically what you have grew up with, you're questioning, but it doesn't make it wrong.
Yeah.
It just has to, like you said, it has to resonate with you. And if what you're being taught doesn't resonate anymore, then that's really worth taking a look at.
Yeah. And I would just like to see more, like, acceptance too of the vast, diversity and experience that we have here as humans, that it's okay for something to resonate for you and not for another, but we can still, like, live in harmony,
Yes, I love that. And that actually, I did a meditation last night, and that's what I really talked about, is really just acceptance of yourself and others, and not feeling like you are nuts, or, if you are different from other people, that's okay.
Yeah.
But what people don't realize is that there's a lot more people out there like you that you really can connect with, and you don't have to do this on your own. You don't have to be alone in this process. And that's where I am really passionate about, because I felt like I was alone and didn't know where to go to. So that's why I do this in combination with my clinical therapy skills. And I do want to point out too, is that it's really important, and I am going to talk a little bit about what the benefits of shadow work are, but it's really important that you do find somebody as a mentor or a therapist that aligns with you and that does have experience in shadow work, because it is not easy. And, you know, especially people that are going to be dealing with trauma things, and you don't want to do any harm. You don't want to have people re-experience the trauma. So just really being careful that, you know, if you are looking for somebody to help you with the shadow work, that it's somebody that really does have a lot of experience in doing so.
Yeah, definitely. So could you tell us more about what the benefits of the shadow work are, and how people go about doing that work?
So first of all, as far as, okay, how do we heal? We'd like to talk about that first, and then what the benefit, if that's okay, what the benefits are. So really the first thing is really giving yourself, again, like we said, acceptance and compassion and that unconditional love without judging these things. So, you know, whatever is coming up for you, whether, you know, it's your beliefs, your behaviors, your patterns, we're not here to judge you, and you're not here to judge yourself. That's really, really important, not to put yourself down about this, because this is really about your healing. And so the shadows can show up in so many different ways: self-sabotage, you know, scarcity mindset, and abandonment, trust issues. It's really going to be different for each person. And that's why it's so important to really do one-on-one work. And so it's really understanding, where did this belief come from, or this pattern come from? And again, it's not placing blame on anybody. We're not placing blame on mom, dad, or wherever we were taught. But it really is from an unmet, you know, need in childhood. So really taking a look at that. And I also recommend starting with one thing at a time. And inner child healing is a huge part of shadow work. And so I do a lot of that in my practice. So second is acknowledging, how can you meet this unmet need? What is it you can do? And then really identifying and communicating with your shadow self to bring it out into the light. And how you're going to do this is how I start out with shadow work is I give some shadow prompts. I'm sorry, I use my hands a lot to talk. I give shadow prompts. So with my package, I have a 3-month package. I start out with giving some prompts. And that kind of gets people journaling and really figuring out where they feel they want to start first, and what issues have been really prevalent, and what has been holding them back from moving forward, whether that be like in relationships, with a job, and taking care of themselves. So that's really how I start. And, you know, other people might have different modalities that they use with shadow work, but I use my Reiki energy healing, because I really believe this is not easy work. So I incorporate a lot of healing during this. And again, taking it one step at a time, because I don't want people to get too overwhelmed and then stop, which can happen if you try to go full force and just want to get it done all at once. It doesn't work like that. That's really important to understand, because I've had a couple of clients that just want to go, 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 go. And it's like, we have to slow down one step at a time. I also use like EFT tapping, which is emotional freedom technique, which can help with trauma, stress, so many different things, breathing techniques. And and just really talking through where some of these limited beliefs are coming from. And it's like putting the pieces together in a puzzle. It really is. There's a lot of epiphanies that, oh yeah, this is where this came from, and putting it all together to really help heal that heart. It's so amazing to see the transformation in people. It's like, it just really warms my heart to see that. Yeah, so what are the benefits of this? It's really unlocking some of those shadows that when you do that, it really helps you heal in so many aspects of your life. So an example would be, it really can help with healing or helping you with your intuition, because trauma can help or can block us from really tapping into our intuitive abilities. So it really helps you to really be able to fully emerge into your intuitive development, which is also the last portion of my program. It helps you get clarity in your life. It helps you really realize what your truth is and how you can step into your power and then use that in your life in speaking your truth so that you can help other people. Because speaking your truth is so important. And I know that scares the shit out of people. It did me. I did not like public speaking, and I still get a little nervous. But I realized that the more that I speak out about my experiences and my knowledge and can share that to others, it helps me heal, but it helps others.
Yeah.
So it's a win-win. And that can be scary. So, everybody's going to have their different ways of speaking their truth. It doesn't mean you have to go and speak in front of 100 people or 1,000 people. It's going to be unique to you and what your calling is and how you're going to get that across to people. And it just really helps heal. It helps heal the trauma. It helps you get confidence in yourself and believe in yourself and getting out of your comfort zone. You're not going to be in that fear of being who you truly are anymore, because you're healing those aspects and those limited beliefs. And also, this can really help heal physical health. Because when like I gave my example, when you're not taking care of yourself and you're absorbing energies and have all of the stress and these blocked energies that are inside of you with your chakras, then it can also cause physical pain. And that can be headaches, stomach aches, digestive issues, neck pain, like I had. And a lot of people don't realize how much that truly affects your physical body as well. And since I have healed, let me just say one thing. You're always going to be healing. So I just wanted to back up on that, because you're going to have healing parts and things that are going to show up through all different phases of your life. So does it mean you do this shadow work and it's going to be done for good? No, it doesn't. But it's going to be much easier because you're going to have the skills to be able to work through it if something does come up again. That's the important part. So yeah, I think that, and this also can help heal your communication skills. I do a lot of throat chakra work at the beginning and heart both, because a lot of people have a really hard time speaking their truth. So I do a lot of chakra cleansing as well, because that's really important. I'm able to pick up where there's blockages in the chakra areas. And I'm actually also able to pick up on physical pain too, because I'm an empath. So that helps me when I'm tapping into somebody's energy to really see where there is some healing to be done.
Yeah. I love that you brought that up about the physical pain because, you know, our minds and bodies are connected. And especially if it's something that's been energetically held on to for a long time, it probably is going to manifest somewhere in the body.
Absolutely. And that's exactly what happened to me. And I've seen it so many times, especially back pain. Back pain and stomach pain seem to be two of the most common, and headaches that really seem to manifest into the physical from stagnant energy.
Do you feel like that is correlated to the, you know, chakras that are, you know, where those physical spaces are, like, it's, you know, like the stomach with the solar plexus, headaches with the like third eye, or, I mean, I guess it could vary, but I'm just curious what your thoughts are with that, about like where emotions get stuck and how it is different for each person.
Yeah, it really is very individual. But some of the common ones that I see the most are the stomach area and the solar plexus, and also the sacral, with a lot of like reproductive, heavy menstrual cycles. Also, we can hold a lot of trauma in our solar plexus. And so that is another reason why the solar plexus can be blocked. And also that's where control is too. And a lot of us want to control the outcome of things or control exactly how things are going to be. And I am one of those people. I have been working on my solar plexus for a very long time. But that in turn can cause the digestive issues and sinus issues. All of it it's all linked, you guys. It really is all linked. That is why I truly, with all my heart, believe in the Reiki energy healing and keeping those chakras cleansed, because it affects you in every aspect of your life.
Yeah.
Both emotionally and physically.
Definitely. And I liked what you said earlier about like the shadow work and the survival responses, and how at one point, you know, it does originate as a way to protect you, right? And that's what fear is about. And so at some point, maybe that shadow trait was serving you, but then it gets to a point where it's not serving you anymore. And so we can kind of connect to that part of ourselves and say, you know, what does this part of me need most to feel whole? And see what we can do to kind of integrate that part in. Because I think a lot of times, like, the tendency is to resist it, right? To resist and want to push it away. But instead, like with shadow work, it's about integrating that part in and accepting it, allowing it to be part of your field, but it doesn't have to be in charge.
Absolutely. Yes, I totally agree with that. And that's why the inner child is so important, because we want to make that inner child feel safe and protected. And a lot of times that's part of what's going on, is that inner child, for whatever reasons that might have caused them to not feel safe. And so that is a really important part and aspect of the shadow work.
Yeah.
And it actually can be very, I mean, it's very healing. I had my one client did that, and then other aspects were coming up, and you know, it was amazing, an amazing transformation in such a short period of time by doing the inner child work. Because, you know, she didn't hear things like she was beautiful, she was pretty, they were proud of her. She didn't ever hear any of that. And so she was able to comfort her inner child and say those things that she hadn't heard before. And I also, which is coming up right now too, is this also, shadow work also helps you so that you truly love yourself unconditionally and you meet your own needs. So you don't feel like you have to get your needs met from other people and seeking validation. You're going to be meeting your own needs by doing the shadow work.
That's huge because I feel like we're just kind of trained to seek that external validation. And when we don't get it, then it can be like devastating, right? Like, oh no, nobody likes this. Nobody likes me. Like, what do I do? You know, but if you're able to find that self-love and believe in yourself fully, you don't need that validation anymore. And that's not an easy place to get to, at least from my experience. It takes a lot of work.
It sure does. It sure does. I was one of those people. I came from a very codependent family and I always was seeking out validation. That's one of the reasons why I went into social work because my dad would talk to me at a young age. And so I thought that that was normal and I felt needed and wanted, but then realized later on down the road that wasn't the healthiest way to be. And so, yeah. And I've been through a lot of this. And so I know how hard it is, but I also know how, looking back, how good it feels, all that transformation, and to know that there's so much more out there for me and for you guys. Anything is possible, especially when you open up that heart center.
Yes, absolutely. And I think we mentioned it, at the beginning of the call with you, letting go of the corporate world and having the courage to step out onto your own. Like, it's amazing how when we do, anchor into the heart center, and when we take those leaps, we step out of the comfort zone, no matter how hard that is to do, right? Because it's comfortable. We feel safe there. Even sometimes when it's really not safe, it's just so normal to us that it feels safe, right? When we step out of that comfort zone and we take those leaps, then we can see how supported we truly are. And so when those like little miracles happen, those little synchronicities, and you see these coincidences, or they seem like a coincidence, something pops up and you're like, wow. And you can just see that you are supported by something bigger. And I think that just makes it all worth it. And it brings more trust. You feel even more trust to trust your heart when you start to see just the little miracles. That's I don't know what other word to use, but yeah.
And it's really about putting your intentions out there too, so the universe can help support you in your journey. And the divine is a big part of how I got to where I am. If it wasn't for all of my spirit guides and my angels, I wouldn't be where I am today. And being able to tap into that and listen to that and trust it is really what helped me get to where I'm at today.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Michelle. This has been wonderful. I love this topic. Is there anything that you want to leave our viewers with today? Any final thoughts, anything your heart wants to share?
Just making sure that you really truly believe in yourself and just know that you are not alone, and that if you are feeling an urge or a pull to really do some of this work, that it really is essential and beneficial. And there's lots of people out there that can help you. I am one of those people, but I can also help you find the right person too. I just want people to really step into their true purpose and their truth so that they can continue to heal and help others heal.
Yes, that's beautiful. And how can our viewers find you? Any place other than Facebook, website, Instagram, any other platforms?
Yeah, I do have a website, peacefuldreamshealing.com. And my Shedding Light on the Darkness package is a 3-month one-on-one program that is also in there. I can always drop the links if you want me to.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll just put that in Facebook when we get off. Okay.
Okay. That sounds lovely. Thank you so much for being here, Michelle.
Thank you, Brittany, and thank you for everything that you were doing. This was wonderful.
Thank you. And thank you to our viewers. Thank you for being here with us and for watching this video. May your hearts be blessed with love and compassion. From my heart to yours, namaste, beautiful humans.
Namaste.